Okay, great. Um, so welcome to our ProLon presentation. All right, so ProLon, anybody know what it stands for?
No.
So when I first saw the name ProLon, I'm going, I don't get it. What's the name? ProLon. It's actually pro longevity. All right. So this ProLon is really based on really good sound studies, and I have to say that the majority of the patients that have done it, that have completed it, I'm seeing really tremendous changes in a very short period of time. And I think that's what patients really want to see. They want to see a quick change. And some people are doing it for weight loss, but other people are doing it for health benefits. Now, if you lose weight, you're going to be healthier. But some people that I have are doing it are not necessarily overweight, but they understand that when you go into a caloric restricted program, that you're going to create new stem cells and you're going to create autophagy, which autophagy means auto, right? Self. And then phagy is eating, so it's your body kind of cleaning out. And so I find that it gives patients like a reset, all right? And that's why we wanted to do this. So we all could use a reset. We live in a pretty toxic world. We live in a pretty stressful world. We don't always make the best choices around food. And then the consequences come of that of inflammation, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, increased body fat. So ProLon, that I'm finding, is really a great program to turn this around. So you guys all have your kits already, right? So you have 3 kits?
Yeah.
And you have 3 kids, well, something like that. We'll work it
I
out.
just received mine today.
And you just got yours today. Okay. So I find that patients that come to the workshop do much better than patients that don't. All right. And what I mean by that is that you have a better chance of succeeding in getting through the fasting mimicking diet program for 3 consecutive months than patients that don't, because they don't do it right. They try to change things. They try to maybe do some things they shouldn't be doing. So what I really want to go through today is any of the objections that we can go through, any of the obstacles that come up during the program. I think also what not to do as far as exercise goes. Because I had 2 people, they wanted to get into it really fast. They went to Florida, they didn't do their blood work, they were playing golf in 94-degree weather, it's like 4 or 5 days in a row. That's not what you want to do when you're doing ProLon. You want to be able to kind of be low-key, take it easy for the 5 days. It's only 5 days, which is a beautiful thing also, because 5 days in reality is not that long a period of time. And then if you are working out religiously, a 5-day break is actually very rejuvenating for you, give your body a chance to heal. All right, so in the box you're going to get 66 items, and there's 5 days worth of food. So the fasting mimicking diet at this current time is a 5-day program. They're working on a 4-day right now for patients that are going through chemo and radiation therapy, not as a substitute for chemo and radiation, but as an adjunct. So if you know patients with cancer, if we get the approval of their oncologist, they might really benefit from including a caloric restricted diet while they're going through chemo and radiation therapy for most cancers. Okay. All right, so what is fasting and types of fasting, why mimic fasting, and ProLon is a fasting mimicking diet. So the term fasting or intermittent fasting kind of covers a very wide umbrella. And a lot of people go, oh, I do fasting. So I have a patient who doesn't eat on Wednesdays, and then after talking to him, he goes, well, I just have like a salad. So he's really not fasting, he's just eating lighter, right? And then there's some people that eat 5 days on, 2 days off. 5 days on, 2 days off. There are some people that have time restricted feeding. So myself, I try to eat at 8 o'clock in the morning, I try to be done by 8 o'clock at night, so I'm 12 hours on, 12 hours off. That's time restricted feeding. And I try not to eat for 3 hours before bed, which seem to be very good cardinal rules. The fasting mimicking diet is exactly what it says. It's your body thinks you're fasting, but you're doing it with some food. So you're tricking your body, and this is all based on epidemiological research that's been done by Dr. Walter Longo, who's a PhD, and he's based out of the University of Southern California, the Leonard Davis School. So that's the Buck Institute, UC Davis, in California, which is a very renowned place. And he's the director of gerontology there, which is the study of getting old. But if you listen to him, he talks about the study of juvenatology, what keeps us youthful, all right? So we want to stay youthful. You 2 guys are pretty youthful. Me and you, not so youthful, all right? But again, we want to stay that way, all right? Because it's coming, all right? And how you take care of yourself your first 40 years determines how you're going to be your next 40 years, right? So you want to throw in these periodic fasts so that your body can clean house and then create new stem cells from within and go where they need to go. That's really the goal, all right? So you want to mimic fasting because a water fast, I mean, do you think it'd be beneficial to go on a 5-day water fast?
No.
No.
Not eat for 5 days? Well, actually, it probably would be good, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And what you end up losing is some, not only fat weight, but you're going to lose your lean muscle mass. So what ProLon has been able to show to do that the majority of the weight loss is circumferential or visceral fat or truncal fat, and you hold on to your lean body mass, which is really the key. You don't want to lose your lean muscle mass, which is important why you shouldn't exercise while you're doing ProLon, because it's extremely caloric restricted. And then if you start to exercise, your body's going to look for calories to support your exercise, and it's going to start to chew up your lean muscle mass.
Mm.
All right? So that's, as soon as I read that, as soon as I heard that, I said, okay, I'm working out because I want to build lean body muscle. I want to keep it on. I don't want to go work out while I'm on a caloric restricted diet and lose some lean muscle mass, and then it's a lot easier to lose it than it is to put it back on, right? So you don't want to lose that. If you think about it, through evolution, at the end here is Homo sapiens, human beings, and it's the same genes. So the genes have not changed much from this to this, right? We've been on the planet for 2.4 million years as a species. We entered into the agricultural revolution about 10,000 years ago. That's only about 500 generations. That's not that much of a time evolutionary-wise for things to change genetically. All right? So what changed is the message to the genes changed. So that's called the phenotype, the cruise ship phenotype of unlimited food and everything being supersized, right? And so now you see people that are obese everywhere. The American people are the puffy people. They're all puffy. They're all inflamed. They're all swollen. All right? So we want to be able to change the message to the genes. So your genes are what they call pleomorphic. They can express themselves very differently depending on how your body reads that message. So what's the information that you're giving? So when we know that when you go into a caloric restricted diet, you're going to produce some ketones. We know that ketones are a super fuel for your brain. All right. I know that myself on day 4, I was kind of euphoric. I wasn't really hungry anymore. All right. And I'm producing these ketone bodies, which is like a really great feeling for brain health, mental clarity. And so you will get a lot of mental clarity if you continue and you do ProLon correctly. Fasting is the #1 diet pattern in the U.S. for 2018. So it's been surged a great deal. And you see all different types. So intermittent fasting, you see paleo, gluten-free, Mediterranean diet. So one of the beauties of ProLon that I find, okay, is that it's a 5-day, all right? So people go, well, what do you do after the 5-day? So day 6 is a transition day. So that doesn't mean you go back to eating pizza and hot dogs, which none of you guys are eating, but you want to be very conscious about the meal choices you make on day 6. So on my website, on spinelife.com, on the bottom of the homepage, you see the recipe for the seed milk, and you see the recipe for the juicing. Those are 2 really great things that I would break my fast with. I would break my fast with the seed milk. A couple hours later, I have a green drink, and then that evening for my dinner meal, maybe a small piece of cod, a small piece of salmon, and some good vegetables, and that's it. And then the next day you go back into your diet, which can be, a Mediterranean diet, could be a keto diet, could be a paleo diet, could be pescatarian, could be vegetarian. Whatever you really want it to be, but just not the crappy standard American diet, which the acronym is SAD, Standard American Diet, right? Which is SAD. It's very poor. I mean, if you see the choices that people make. All right? So fasting is to abstain from food and beverage, so nothing to do. Biological fasting is to not consume foods that trigger the food sensing pathways. So PKA, IGF, PKB, and the mTOR pathway are turned on by the IGF pathway. All right, and we know that ProLon downregulates insulin growth factor 1, which looks a lot like insulin. And what turns on IGF-1 is high amounts of protein, high amounts of carbohydrate, and just a lot of food. coming in. So when you take a 5-day fast, and after the first day, 24 hours, your body's in fasting mode, okay? We start to downregulate these pathways. You quiet them, all right? And we know that the lower the levels of IGF-1 are associated with the longest longevity. So Dr. Longo studied a population of Lorans that are from Ecuador. You ever hear of them?
No.
Anybody? All right, so they're a small group of people that are and small in stature. They're like 4.5 foot, 5 foot high. They're short, and they're minus this IGF receptor. All right, and they have very low rates of cancer, and they have very low rates of heart disease when they compare them to their relatives that have the IGF receptor. And so they've been able to show that if they're able to make mice IGF deficient, receptor deficient, that they live longer. All right, even giving them cancer and heart disease and doing crazy things to mice, because mice are very accelerated in age. Okay, so we really want to down-regulate those pathways. So we know that the sensory pathways are triggered up to 24 hours after the last meal. So biological fasting starts after 24 hours. So when you do ProLon, so this is the box. So after day 1, your body actually thinks it's in fasting mode. And that's pretty good, because you did it with about 1,100 calories. So you tricked your body. And then day 2 through day 5 are 770 calories. And by the end of day 2, you're in a trace amount of ketosis. Now that same couple that golfed, they wanted to go into full-blown ketosis. And I said that's not what's gonna happen with this. It's just a trace of ketosis. You don't have to go full-blown, and you start using your fat as fuel. And juice fasting is really not a fast, because you're still consuming a fair amount of calories. It's just not solid food, okay? Now, ProLon, fasting has been originated in evolution and healing tradition across the millennia. So almost all religions have a fasting component involved. But there were times as human beings where food was not available all the time. Now food is constantly available, right? I mean, you can go to a 7-Eleven anytime. There's a deli open everywhere. We live in New York. It's 24/7. Things never shut down. And we never shut down. So food is always abundant. And as a result of that, the PKA, the mTOR, and the IGF pathways are always on, okay? And that's the problem. So 75 years ago, there would be times where there just wasn't food. And then your body would clean out. And if you look at movies from, 50, 60, 70 years ago, everybody was thin, right? Mm-hmm. Now everybody's got belly, except you. Okay. So it's been shown to support overall metabolic health. So Dr. Longo was a student of Dr. Roy Wolford, and some of you have seen the video that I played in the office here, and he ran the Biosphere Project, which was in Arizona, where people went in for 2 years and they never came out, and they did everything they had to do. It was a very stressful situation, but they learned a lot, that when people were caloric restricted, they lost a lot of body fat, they stayed really lean. It was stressful, but they took that information and they developed in the lab ProLon. Okay. Actually, I just wanted to show you. So it supports cellular cleanup that leads to cellular regeneration and increases circulating stem cells. So they have a patent on that. So there are people that are spending $10,000 on shots of stem cells. This is a way for your body to regenerate stem cells from within in your whole body. And then your body innately knows where the stem cells should really go. And so for under $600, around $600, you're able to create your own stem cells. So 10,000, 600, all right? I think I'd rather do it that way. And then it impacts markers associated with an increase in human longevity. So blood pressure, glucose, fasting insulin, hemoglobin A1C, markers for inflammation, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, body fat. These are all things that are associated with longevity. And we know that when you fast, you optimize the body. So we did talk about this already. Time-restricted feeding, intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting. They're all different, all right? And it takes a couple of days for your body to get into the autophagy mode, and it takes a couple of days for your body to get into the stem cell regeneration. Now, I know ProLon is in the process of developing a 7-day fast. So do you create more autophagy if you go from 5 days to 7 days? Do you create more stem cells when you go from 5 days to 7 days? I think yes. They're showing it in the lab. I mean, you can't just go to a regular lab right now and go, I want to test my autophagy, but they're able to do this in these high-tech labs, and down the road, maybe 5, 10 years, we'll be able to test autophagy in patients and see how well your body's actually cleaning up and see how your body's regenerating stem cells, is where the science is going. Okay, so we know that with fasting mimicking diet, I've seen it, is that the weight loss is dramatic and fast. So I have had numerous patients that have lost, the guys have lost 10 pounds in one five day, if they needed to. If they didn't need to, then they really didn't lose the visceral fat. It seems to target this visceral fat. Viscera means organ, and so the viscera are the things around your liver and your gallbladder and your pancreas and your spleen. And we know that those organs shrink when patients do ProLon. And then when you refeed, right, the refeeding a couple days out, then they start to see them grow. So your body now has gotten rid of some dysfunctional cells in, say, the liver, and then when you refeed, it creates new healthy stem cells. So that's really the goal. So see somebody through all the toxins in the environment, insecticides, pesticides, glyphosate, alcohol. These are all things that damage your liver, weaken cells. We have this built-in defense mechanism that at times of stress, when cells are stressed, your body would get rid of unwanted cells, which are the unhealthiest cells first. So you're getting rid of dysfunctional cells. And to me, that's the most exciting part about ProLon, is that your body's getting rid of these dysfunctional cells while going on a caloric restricted diet. All right, and so Dr. Longo showed how beta cells in the pancreas that secrete insulin have regenerated. All right, how liver cells regenerate. About 10% of your immune system is kind of broken down and gotten rid of when you do a 5-day, which is why you don't want to stress yourself out, because we don't want you to get sick, because you're a little bit immune compromised. And then when you refeed, your body's going to create those new T cells, those thymus-dependent cells, which are not hyperimmune. So say you have an autoimmune disorder like Hashimoto's or lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Sjogren's syndrome. These are all autoimmune. And so autoimmune, what does that mean? So your body's turning on itself and your immune system has gone awry. What's really happened is that your immune system is doing exactly what it needs to do. And your body has been toxified from glyphosate or from gluten, that things that are heavy metals or viruses that have attacked different organs, and then your immune system recognizes that and then attacks your own body. So in the chapter, there's a chapter on autoimmunity and inflammatory disorders in the book. And Dr. Longo asked a question, and then they were able to prove it in the lab. And the question was, when you do ProLon, does your body get rid of dysfunctional cells, dysfunctional immune cells, and then when you refeed, does it create new healthy immune cells, or immune cells that are already geared to be autoimmune to attack your own organ? And the answer is that they're actually healthy, native, new immune cells that are not hyperimmune. So if anybody has an autoimmune disorder that I just mentioned, ProLon, I think, is really the best thing for them to do, to give them a break from a short period of time to get rid of those dysfunctional immune cells. And then after doing this 3 or 4 times, your body has created new immune cells. So this program is, I tell patients, it's 3 months. If you're only going to do 1 month and don't bother doing it, just do it for 3 months. It's 3 months. 5 days this month, 4 or 5 weeks later, another 5-day, 4 or 5 weeks later, another 5-day. You don't want to wait a couple months in between each fast. Will you get benefit? Yeah, you might lose some weight, you might lower your cholesterol a little bit, you might lower blood pressure, but what the research has really shown, we want to be able to create the autophagy and the stem cell regeneration, which you're not going to get if you just go into like a caloric restricted for a couple of days. All right, make sense? All right, I also wanted to show you here that the fasting mimicking diet protects your lean body mass. So I have the Tanita machine that measures body composition. It's a segmental, I can break it down into legs, arms, and then your trunk. What I'm finding is that patients are just losing visceral fat. I also learned that I don't want to measure your body fat during the 5 days. I don't want to measure it right after. I want to measure it about 8 days, 8 to 10 days after. This way you've given your body a chance to refeed. Your water has balanced itself out, your electrolytes have balanced themselves out, and I'll get a much more accurate reading of body composition. Otherwise, it appears to me that you lost lean body mass because you lost a lot of water. Because muscle has a lot of water in it, fat has very little water, and therefore it's really measuring the electricity of the water in the muscle. All right, and it goes through the algorithms. So we protect that lean body mass. I had a patient, I mean, he's been buying ProLon for his whole family. He's got his wife on it now, he's got his 2 kids on it, and he showed me his cholesterol. He went from like 240 down to 180 on his total cholesterol. And he's got people coming up, he's a lifetime member like us, and he's got people coming up to the gym and go, what did you do? You lost all this weight. So he's been carrying packets around of ProLon and giving them out to people because he didn't do it for weight loss. He's a 9/11 guy, he was a firefighter, lost his thyroid from thyroid cancer after being down at 9/11. And he's doing it for the real health benefits of it. Can you be healthy if you lose weight? Yeah, but you can also create new stem cells in autophagy even if you are at a good body composition. And for a guy, under 22% body fat, actually 8 to 18. For a woman, between 18 and 28% body fat, or around 25. All right, you lose a little bit of fat and then you can put it right back on, but healthier. Fasting blood sugar. So I had a guy here today, earlier. He was diabetic. His hemoglobin A1C was at 6.0. His blood sugar was high. It was like in the 140s. They had him on Trulicity, which is a drug that pushes on your pancreas to make more insulin. So we just did his blood work. Again, everything was really good except his fasting insulin, and now it's at 23. It's too high. It should be under 5. So the drug is making him insulin resistant, and so now he went to his endocrinologist again, and now they cut the drug dose in half. And I would say in about 2 months he'll be off that drug totally, which is a home run. All right, he was diabetic. We did ProLon. He did it to the max. He was all in. In between, we have him on a very good product called Ultra Glucose Control, and then Dioxinol from Orthomolecular. Ultra Glucose Control is from Metagenics, just to really give him a good diet. Before that, he was having a muffin for breakfast, or a bagel, or some other, rich carbohydrate, sugar-producing meal. So I put him into a shake, and as he's losing weight, he saw him today, he looked good. All right, so he was diabetic, now he's not. And then prolonged fasting and a fasting mimicking diet are really the only 2 programs that have been documented to create autophagy and stem cell regeneration. Now the problem with doing a prolonged fast, I couldn't do it. There's no way that I could function as a person, talk to people, without putting something into my digestive tract, all right? The soups, the bars, the olives, the kale, the L drink, which preserves your lean muscle mass, give you enough to sustain you throughout the course of the day. Will you be hungry? Yes. Will you be thinking about food? Yes. But the way that I did it, I spread out the food. So my rep, she likes to eat the bar, the L bar, and the fast bar in the morning with a cup of coffee, so she feels like she's got a belly full of food. Me, on the other hand, I kind of waited till I was starving, till I had a little bit of the bar, and I would eat just little nibbles of the bar throughout the course of the morning to make it to my soup. So whatever really works for you, do, but maybe you want to have a belly full of food, maybe you want to spread it out throughout the course of the day. Those are your options on that. The soups, they recommend you put a 1 1/4 cup, and you can microwave the afternoon soup. But if you have the availability of having a stovetop, I prefer to use the stovetop. Cook it for the full time because there is some rice flour in there and it really needs to cook. I went from 1 1/4 cup to 2 cups. It made the soup last a little bit longer for me. It also diluted some of the sodium content in it for me, and I felt like I was eating more food, and I took my time eating it. Okay? The crackers that came with it, some people like to eat them all at one time so they feel nice and full. I had a half a cracker, and I come back another 15 minutes later, they have the other half, another 15 minutes later, they have the other half, and I did the same thing with the olives, all right? So I would eat 1 olive at a time, and I would not gulp them down, I would savor the taste of the olive, like a starving man after a T-bone steak, all right? I would just have 1 little olive at a time, and I would just, enjoy the taste of it, like a good, nice piece of dark chocolate, all right? And so I wouldn't gulp it down, all right? The patients that were in Florida, the guy, he goes, I can't stand olives. I said, what are you, 12 years old? Just eat the olive, all right? So eat the olives, they're real good. They're from Spain, they're like really special. And then there's juice in the bottom of the packet. Drink the juice, the olive juice. Don't let that go to waste, all right?
That's the best part.
Tell me about the juice.
Well, it's olive juice, olive oil. So it's it's liquid and it's got good fat calories in it, and it's a monounsaturated fatty acid, and it's very healthy for you.
Okay.
All right, so we know that olive oil is real good, and you can actually have a fair amount of olive oil per day. All right, actually, I think Dr. Longo, and if I remember correctly, it was him, was about 1 liter a week of olive oil.
What?
1 liter a week of olive?
Right, okay?
It's raw,
Of going
right?
through olive oil, okay?
It's raw.
Good. So we know that prolonged fasting, water-only fasting, that you have an increased risk of developing kidney stones, gallstones, from just a prolonged water fast, and your body's gonna eat up your lean muscle. We don't wanna lose the lean muscle. We wanna keep your lean muscle, all right? So water-only fasting also is very difficult to do. There's no way that I can do it. It does not preserve your lean muscle mass. It's devoid of macronutrients. So ProLon is actually very specifically geared for macronutrient content. It's very high fat, high complex carbohydrate, very low in protein. So for somebody like anybody in this room here, you're all under the age of 65, you want to take your weight, your current weight right now, multiply times 0.36, and that's going to give you how much protein you should consume during the day. So I'm going to tell you, you're going to be about 55, you're going to be about 70, you're going to be about 75, okay, of grams of protein that you should be consuming during the course of the day. Okay.
Times your weight or times your...
Times your weight.
Okay.
0.36 times your weight. Okay. So also I want you to realize that this really kind of hits all the points. It's plant-based. It's all plant-based. There's no animal products in it. There's no gluten. There's no glyphosate. There's no GMO. There's no dairy. I shouldn't say that. The food I think is about 99% organic, soon to be 100% organic as far as the ingredients go. It's backed by the National Institute of Health. Right now I think there's 44 published studies from Dr. Longo and his group, and there's current clinical trials going on right now. So one of the pillars of the longevity diet is epidemiological studies. What do they show? So they've been able to show in single-celled organisms, earthworms, mice, monkeys, and humans. It's hard to do the prolonged studies in humans because we haven't been doing it that long, all right? But the studies that have been done in animals are actually, when you caloric restrict them across the board, they live longer and they live healthier, okay? Than as compared to people that are animals that are eating food all the time. Preclinical and clinical trials has several patents on it, and Dr. Longo has not taken a dime from this book. So this book first came out in Italian, was very well received. Right now I think it's in about 30 different languages, sold millions of copies. Do the math. Take 50 cents from every book. Take $1 from every book, all right? And that's a lot of money. All the money goes back into createcures.org. So the createcures.org is a foundation where this research money goes. And they're trying to make it affordable. So I think ProLon actually is very affordable for people. It's not an expensive program. And they designed it that way. They wanted to keep it low cost because they want people to be able to do it. Because the alternatives are, you get into this polypharmacy route of take this drug for that, and then you get a side effect, then you gotta take this drug. And you got people on all these different medications, from proton pump inhibitors to block stomach acid. You got medications to lower blood pressure. You got medications to lower cholesterol. And all those drugs are inhibitors. ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, all right, HMG coenzyme reductase inhibitors to lower cholesterol, proton pump inhibitors. What do they all have in common?
Inhibitors.
They're all inhibitors. Every drug that I just said is an inhibitor. It blocks a pathway. It blocks one pathway, all right? It doesn't get to the underlying root cause of the problem. So I believe that ProLon handles a lot of problems for people easily, all right? So this is Cell Magazine, Cell Journal, Science Translational Medicine. JAMA is the Journal of the American Medical Association. It goes to almost every doctor that's a member of the AMA, American Medical Association. All right, it's like the Lancet, it's like the New England Journal of Medicine. So these are all published in top tier reviews. So day one primes the body, transition into a fasting state, and begins cellular optimization. Day one is easy, right? All right, by the end of day one, your body's in fasting mode. By day two, the body switches to fat. So it's sort of like switching over from gasoline to diesel. We have the availability of doing that. We're like a hybrid. We can burn glucose and we can burn fat. So the ketogenic diet is all the rage, right? People want to go into ketosis. It's hard to do that for prolonged periods of time. ProLon will put you into ketosis for several days, and then you'll come out of ketosis, all right, which is fine. So now you're in ketosis, you're still going through the cellular cleanup, going through the autophagy, going through the stem cell regeneration, okay? You want to take a picture of that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
I just wanna keep
He's
this in
always
mind.
posing for the picture.
I feel like Vanna White, you want to take it. Does that woman not ever age? She looks the same for the last 40 years, that's unbelievable, right? Okay. Now I like this picture a lot. So all the red is a cross-sectional view looking at visceral fat. All right, this way. This slice is taken this way. So here's all your visceral fat. So that's visceral fat before ProLon, visceral fat after ProLon. And I see it working in patients. I see it working on myself. I lost like 6 pounds when I first did the first program. So patients are losing visceral fat, and then I can measure that. And in that visceral fat is a lot of toxins. So in between these 5 days, the diet, I think, should include some sort of, the nutrient program should include some sort of liver detoxification support, all right, to help your body mobilize these toxins and eliminate them out of your body, in my own personal feeling. All right, so we see here the fasting mimicking diet resulted in a 3% reduction in body weight that remained lower even after refeeding. So people, the organs shrunk in size, you refeed, and then they got bigger, all right, and they got healthier. So if you lose any lean muscle mass, that lean muscle mass will come back on. But this is based on a 3-month program of doing 5-day fasting mimicking diet for 3 months in a row. So that's my suggestion to everybody that's here, is that we do that. So it's shown to help individuals with normal BMI reading to lose an average of 5.2 pounds. So normal BMI is 19 to 25, so patients that were in that range lost about 5.5 pounds and 1.2 inches off their waist. So if you went from a 35, you went to a 34, which is substantial because I've been 35 and I've been 34, and I prefer to be 34, right? Okay? And while overweight, obese lost about 8 pounds, mainly visceral fat reduction while protecting lean body mass. So if I see a patient, say they put on 3 pounds of lean muscle mass and they lost 5 pounds of body fat, that's a home run.
That's good.
Even though they might have only, the scale might have only changed 2 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is why it's not important to look at a regular bathroom scale. We do this. So after each round of ProLon, you should come in, we should do a 5-day, we should do on day 8 to day 10, do a body composition on you, okay? So Dr. Longo is the director of longevity, and he's studying juvenatology. What keeps us juvenile, what keeps us young, at the University of Southern California, and the clinical studies have shown that it downregulates IGF, the mTOR, and the PKA pathways are closely tied to aging. Elevation of these nutrient-sensitive pathways accelerates the aging process. So high levels of IGF are associated with premature aging. Now you need some IGF because IGF is going to help you make new brain cells, new neurons, and help you build lean muscle mass. But to have IGF levels elevated and not to be kind of exercising hard is contraindicated, okay? So high levels of IGF will build muscle. There are people out there that take synthetic hormones, Somorelin, that raises a human growth hormone and has been shown to increase IGF. You know, if you're just taking it and not working out, I think it's a risk factor associated with it. If you take it, you're working out hard, and your body's building lean muscle, then okay, all right? But other than that, I'm not a big fan. Okay, so fasting mimicking diet was shown to decrease hormone IGF, which has been implicated in aging and disease. So that's really the #1 most important thing about this ProLon, is that it will downregulate the IGF, and then you get the cellular cleanup, and you're going to get the autophagy. Okay. Now, right now, at the last count, all right, it was about $50 million worth of research grant money. So all the money from the book, all right, goes into Create Cures Foundation. Out of this $46 million, there are salaries given to the scientists that are doing this on the research teams. And these are all research centers. University of Southern California, MD Anderson, Charité, I believe, is in the Netherlands. University of Leiden is in Berlin. Genova is in Italy. IFOM is where Dr. Longo spends the other half of his time. He splits it between IFOM and he splits it between the Buck Institute in California. And you can't get better than that. This, National Institute of Aging, National Cancer Institute, National Institute of Health, and the Buck Institute are very prestigious places that are using caloric restriction as a treatment for major diseases that affect mankind. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, autoimmune disorders, neurodegenerative disorders. I think that about sums up mostly everything. All right? And so can caloric restriction be a great adjunct to a lot of this? And I'm going to say yes. So if a patient is suffering from a neurodegenerative disorder, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, MS, which is also autoimmune, they would do very well, hopefully, on ProLon. If they did other things as well too, I would throw everything at it. I would hit it with everything. All right? And I think by doing a 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you that home run. Okay. It's been clinically studied, so the research studies are there. If you go into the CreateCures website, you go down to the bottom, you'll see the research articles, you'll see the science articles, they're all right there. Also, Dr. Longo owns 60% of the shares of El Nutra, which is the company that makes ProLon, and he doesn't take a dime from that either. So all the money goes back into that. So it's not about money for him, it's really about promoting longevity and health, and improving health span. The diet that's in the book, the longevity diet, was written by other people, and if you realize the book first came out in Italian, and so the Italian diet is different than the American diet, and I'm going to say the grains are differently there than they are here, mainly because they're not hybridized as much, and they're not sprayed with glyphosate because they don't allow GMOs into the country. So do we have a lot of problems as a result of glyphosate made by Monsanto and the GMOs? Leading to changes in the gut flora, leading to a lot of these diseases that we have affecting us right now. Okay, so I know that this is a very fast way to lose weight because I've seen it in tons of patients already that are doing ProLon, that the weight loss is rapid. I have not been able to get people to lose this much weight this quick with one product. All right, because I know we've been working for it for a long time, so now you're gonna see some dramatic changes in a relatively short period of time. All right, and the effects persisted after returning to the normal diet. Okay, we're gonna have to work on that a little bit because the word normal, all right, is subject to interpretation. Okay, all right, so promotes healthy levels of C-reactive protein as an inflammatory marker. So we know that a common thread for a lot of diseases, from Alzheimer's to heart disease to diabetes to joint issues and to these autoimmune, is low-grade chronic inflammation. All right, CRP is a protein made by your liver in response to signals that it receives from other places in the body. We know that the American diet is an extremely inflammatory diet, high in processed sugars, high in processed saturated fat. All those things lead to inflammation. And we know that one meal is inflammatory, followed by another meal that has an inflammatory effect for another 4 to 6 hours, followed by another inflammatory meal. And so we want to downrate these inflammatory markers. And I believe we have some people in the room that have some inflammatory markers that were positive, which is why I suggested ProLon, that we get to lower the inflammation. All right? And we'll see dramatic changes in that inflammatory marker. We know that these are the major culprits around aging. So the one thing you don't want to become is a diabetic patient. And the risk starts with glucose around 95. All right? Some doctors even think even a little bit lower. But they won't say you're diabetic until your blood sugar is 125. So 95, 100, 103, you're already too high. All right? Hemoglobin A1C, we want to lower that. That takes about 4 months to lower, and the lower the better. Blood pressure, 110 over 70 is ideal. 120 over 80 is already pretty high, hypertensive. And triglycerides are a marker of circulating fat in your blood. I like to also add in fasting insulin. We want that number to be below 5. Hemoglobin A1C, we want that number to be below 5.4. The C-reactive protein, we want that below 0.7. IGF, I measure IGF levels. And then a basic lipid panel where I look at cholesterol, triglycerides. Now we can do an expanded lipid panel, but for ProLon patients, I want to keep it simple, and I want to measure what's very measurable that we can affect very easily with the 5-day fasting mimicking diet. Most patients feel an improvement in energy levels, feeling empowered to make healthy choices, and a positive impact on lifestyle. So when you're doing the 5-day, I want you to respect the time. I want you to just lay low, all right? I don't want you going to a barbecue. I don't want you going to a wedding and feeling deprived. Do it on a 5-day window where you really have no social events. Most people like to start on Monday and Friday. Some people can start on Sunday and then Thursday. Friday would be their transition day. So map it out, all right? And day 6 is a very important day. So include that 6 days as a fasting mimicking diet where there's really no alcohol. You want to eat very lightly on day 6. Exercise, all right? You want to go for a little walk. I'm okay with that. I don't want you to jog. I don't want you to, like I had a patient, he went for a 20-mile bike ride with Parkinson's, and I thought it was too much for him, all right? I just really wanted him to just lay low, all right, for 5 days, and your body would thank you for it. So no exercise. Any questions at all?
How about before ProLon?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So get your body ready. And one of the side effects that people get from ProLon could be headaches. And one of the reasons why somebody can get a headache is caffeine withdrawal. So if you're drinking 2, 3, 4 cups of coffee a day, in the couple weeks getting up to ProLon, I would get that down to 1 cup a day. With ProLon, you're allowed 8 ounces of black coffee, caffeinated, in the morning. All right, 1 cup. All right, it's the milk. As soon as you put milk in it, now you're putting the calories in. Now you just changed the whole program.
Because of the dairy, right?
Yeah, and the calories that are in the dairy.
Oh.
So just black coffee, and you can have unlimited herbal decaffeinated tea. They give you plenty of tea. In this bottle, what I did is I filled this up with Mountain Valley spring water, all right, and then you take the L drink. So depending on your weight, this would be, you know, for somebody that's 120 pounds, 160, and 240, this is the L drink. I would cold brew some hibiscus tea overnight. So you make your tea hot, let them cool down for an hour, then throw that in here, throw it in the refrigerator, take the L drink, throw your weight in. So I'm 180 pounds, so I put that much in of the L drink. And what the L drink is preserve my lean body tissue and use my circulating fat and my visceral fat as fuel. So I found this to be a very important component of the program. That starts on day 2. There's plenty of teas. I think the hibiscus tea was really good, the spearmint. I like the hibiscus tea. I thought that was a very good tea with the L drink, worked really well, okay? I felt very euphoric. I felt very clear. My brain felt clear, right? It was like a fog lifted. And you don't really know that you're in a fog until you lift it, all right? And then you'll feel a lot better, okay? So these are 1 fasting mimicking diet per month for 3 consecutive months. Glucose, insulin lowered, IGF lowered. Cholesterol, blood pressure lowered. If it was in the healthy range, it stayed in the healthy range. Lowered inflammation, created new stem cells. You didn't lose lean muscle mass. The only patients that lost lean muscle mass were people that exercised when they couldn't stop. All right? So no exercise while you're doing this. And people lost a dramatic amount of body fat, okay? So that's pretty much ProLon in a nutshell. So any questions, any obstacles that you felt that would interfere with your success in ProLon?
No, just the whole starting part is like how to prep yourself before.
Okay, so again, you want to also, ProLon, being that you're not eating a lot of food, food has water in it, so you're gonna be dehydrated. Like today, I gotta tell you, I've been here since 9 o'clock this morning, and at 8:30 this morning, and I've been running all day, and I really didn't drink enough water. All right, so I got dehydrated. If you get dehydrated, you're gonna get muscle cramps. You're gonna feel fatigued. You're gonna be tired. All right, so you want to make sure that you drink a lot of water, and much more water than you think. So have good filtered water. I like Mountain Valley spring water. It's a great water. It comes in glass, all right, which I really like, so I'm not getting the plastics or the plasticizers. So I think that that's a really smart thing to do. Wean yourself down to 1 cup. Go through the material before you do it. My suggestion also is you get a little Tupperware container and you cut up some cucumber slices, like maybe 1 stalk of cucumber, cut it in half, all right, and some red bell pepper and some celery. and that's something you can snack on during the day if you have to. The lower the calories, the better off, so you don't want to add extra calories in.
Oh, I see what you're saying. During that you could do that during ProLon if you have to.
If you have to. I wouldn't go out of my way to do it unless you feel like you're losing it.
Right.
Like on day 2, I thought I was cruising really good, and then around 4 o'clock I went, whoa,
Yeah.
I'm hungry. All right, I need some red bell pepper. I need something. Just I got to nibble on something. All right. The same thing on day 3, but day 4, day 5, I kind of cruised through, no problem at all. All right.
I think for us, day 3 was probably the hardest part because with me, I felt like just over time of not having anything really solid except for like the olives and maybe some crackers. It was like eating away at me, and I didn't know that we could have.
Right, which is why it's important, I think, that patients come here, all right? Sometimes the rep is here, she did ProLon 11 times, she's got a wealth of information. I've done it several times myself, and now I'm dealing with a lot of patients that have done it, all right? I can tell you, though, that everybody that's done it, that's completed it, has gotten benefit from it, all right? Some people more than others. I think the blood work is very important. I mean, I just did blood work on a patient, and her fasting insulin levels were 253, which is the highest I've ever seen. Prior to that was 50. All right, so there's something going on. So the blood work allowed me to investigate and see if there's any pathology that's there. So I find that blood work is very good. I find that patients that do this and they don't have guidance of me, and once you do this, you have my cell phone, you have my email, you can contact me if you have questions about how to do this correctly. Good.
One more thing. Working out after ProLon, should it be like
I'm gonna say day
moderated
6,
or
you go back in light.
right?
You know, I wouldn't be pounding heavy weights. I wouldn't run a marathon. If you're a cyclist, you know, if you're riding 40, 50 miles, I would probably do 20 miles, you know, so you just tone it down. If you're a runner, instead of doing, you know, if you're doing 5, 6 miles, I would do 2 miles. And you just gradually get back into it, you know. As we all know, time goes by very, very quickly, and you'll be right where you were in a very short period of time, with a little bit of rest, which actually does your body a world of good. I mean, if you look at world-class athletes, they take off. You know, they take a break from training. They train hard and then they take a break. They train hard, take a break. Otherwise, people overtrain, and I think that gets people into a lot of trouble when they over-exercise. Bobby, any questions?
How can they set that up, right? The meals per day for all different weight classes. Like I'm 250. What if someone who's like 180?
Right, that's a very good
Take
question.
the same amount
We
of
know
food?
that it's enough to keep you sustained throughout the course of the day. I think it becomes very difficult if they have to start making a program for somebody that's 150 to 160, somebody that's 200 to 250, somebody that's 250 to 300. So again, you know, you can, if you're 250, 300 pounds, you got a lot of fuel to burn.
I'm gonna need some red peppers on the side.
Yeah,
Right?
but just a little bit. Like I'll take a red pepper, I'll cut it in half, and then I'll cut that half in half, and I'll slice that, and I'll just eat a couple slices here and there. All right? No dip.
Right.
None of that cream cheese dip. All right? For the red bell pepper. No dip. Okay. What other obstacles?
Is it okay, like, let's say when you feel fatigued, because there was a time when I did feel fatigued, is it okay to sleep through that?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
listen, your body is going through a lot. If you're tired, because you don't have a lot of calories going in, and you have the opportunity to rest, by all means, rest. Don't push on through it. Honor your body, listen to your body. That's why I tell patients, like I had 2 people that came to the workshop and they go, well, we're going to take some conferences in Canada, and we thought we would take ProLon with us, we'll do at the conference. And I'm going, no. You don't want to be at a conference, you don't want to be going out for dinner, you don't want a place where there's a buffet, all right? You want to be home in your own house. Get rid of the enemy. Don't have the enemy in the house, like the bad stuff. All right, and just go through it. I kind of kept everything out. I looked at when I was going to eat next. I had, you know, I'm in the office a lot. I wasn't going to take about 5 days to do a ProLon, but I was able to work through it. All right, and we have a microwave here, so I was able to microwave the soups. I had the red bell pepper, the cucumbers. I felt that really assisted me in getting through this. I drank a lot of water. I had the water right here. I drank a lot of tea. And you get through it, and realize it's only 5 days. So it's, you know, 5 days. It's the middle of summer already, right?
Yeah.
All right. So how fast this time flies by. Okay.
Does the schedule matter? You can eat it whenever, between the 24 hours?
You can eat it, yes. But my suggestion is you wanna. I would wait have your coffee in the morning, and then wait till you have the bar until you're hungry.
No,
Alright?
I'm just saying throughout the whole one box, doesn't matter the time schedule, like, let's say, I don't know, I get out of work at 10 o'clock at night, is it okay for me to make my last meal?
I would say that I would try to do some of that time restricted feeding in there as well too.
Okay.
And I think for you, a 12-hour window is the max. I would eat 12 hours and then I would not eat for 12 hours and I would not
Okay.
eat for 3 hours before
Okay.
going to bed. So if you're not getting out of work until 10 o'clock,
Mhm.
I'm sure you get a dinner break 6 or 7
Yeah,
o'clock.
yeah.
I would have my dinner then.
Okay.
And then there's a dessert bar many of the nights, and actually the dessert bar I think is really good. It's like a nice deep chocolate bar, and it was heavy, and it kind of did the trick. I think it's on 3 out of the 5 days we had the dessert bar. So that's a real good thing, but I would not eat for 3 hours before I go to bed. That's the best thing that you can do that will lower your insulin, best thing to lower your fasting blood sugar and your inflammatory markers is not eat for that 3 hours. And then I think even once we get through this, you might do better with like a 16-hour fast and then 8 hours of eating. And then probably eat 2 meals a day and 1 snack and have one of those meals be a real good shake, all right? Which I think would be really smart for you as a medical food.
What's the success rate after, say, 6 months or a year?
People that have lost weight? Okay, so that's a great question. So this is.
It's not only weight, sometimes people do it for different reasons, you see.
Right, so this is my suggestion to you. So how often should you do ProLon, all right? I think, well, first of all, everybody should do the 3 months consecutively, and then let's reevaluate and see where you're at. If you have an autoimmune disorder, like Hashimoto's, Sjogren, rheumatoid arthritis, and you feel better, but maybe you need to do a ProLon fast every 2-3 months, all right? If you have a BMI that was at 35 and we want to get it between 19 and 25, and you do the 3 rounds and now you're at 28, you might want to do every other month until your BMI is at optimal. If you have a neurodegenerative disorder like Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's or ALS, you might want to do it every month, all right? A 5-day fasting window is a good thing. Can you replicate this yourself? I think it'd be very difficult to do, all right, to get that macronutrient. Like I had 2 bars. The L bar is 260 calories, all right? I have another bar that I like that I get at Whole Foods, got some 15 grams of protein in it, all right? It's a whole different macronutrient makeup. So all the research study was based on the macronutrients, a high fat, high complex carb, very low simple sugar, very low protein, all right? And that's what these bars are. So the bars are actually delicious. Everybody tried the bar?
Yeah.
Actually, the bars are real good. But the bars are also available to purchase by themselves. So that's, I think, a good thing that you can have in between each of the 5 days, is that you can have a bar and use that as like a meal replacement, and it'll give you less calories during the course of the day, okay? So, myself personally, people that are pretty fit and pretty healthy, I think ProLon maybe once a season, 3 or 4 times a year, I think is a good idea. I'm saying I'm just gonna take a 5-day break, I'm not gonna drink any alcohol, I'm not having any bread, I'm not having any sugar, I'm not having any dairy, and just give you a body a 5-day break from food, and then do a day 6 with the seed milk, a green drink, healthy, wild sockeye salmon and some vegetables for dinner or something like that, okay? And then you can reset your metabolism, reset your, change your blood work, stuff, good. Good?
So how about the blood test? You should still continue to.
I would do the
Do
blood
that
test, I would
every
do the
6
blood
months.
test prior to going into ProLon, so we have a goal in mind, and then I would do blood work the week or 2 after the 3rd fasting mimicking diet, all right? And we don't, like I said, if somebody doesn't have insurance, I can do the ProLon testing for about $120, $140 if you don't have health insurance, which is a pretty inexpensive to get lipids, sugar, insulin, IGF-1, inflammatory markers, hemoglobin A1C, which are the basics that I'm really looking at. So it's not a lot of blood and it's not a lot of money, and I would do it before and I would do it after. I would do body composition before, I would do body composition on day 8 to 10 after each fasting mimicking diet, and then I would repeat the blood work after the 3 months. All right? Unless you're a real healthy person and the blood work came back great, and you say, I'm just doing, some people just want to do a fast. They want to just, optimize their training, they want to optimize their health. They've read the literature on caloric restriction. I mean, you read Dr. Perlmutter's books, you read Dale Bredesen's book on the end of Alzheimer's, and they all talk about caloric restriction, all right? and the End of Alzheimer's and Grow a Better Brain by Dr. David Perlmutter, and read Mark Hyman's books, you know, on the benefits of fasting and caloric restriction. All right, and then a ketogenic type diet using ketones as a super fuel for your brain. Okay. All right, so I think everybody's good. You all have your kids. You're all ready to go. You have any questions, you text me, you call, you email, and hopefully we'll get back to you. Today I haven't had a chance to look at my emails at all, or my phone. All right, so I appreciate everybody coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thanks a lot, Doc.
good.
Thanks a lot, Doc. Thanks, appreciate it.
Good. Okay, so Casey's gonna shut that